What's up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with you on the Military Radio podcast, doing another Kaiju Spotlight. This time I'm doing Mothra with my very, very special guest, Lady Phatblood. The Fat Samurai Guy's better half here with me to talk Mothra. Oh, shit, what is that? Is that actually a plushie?
It's a Mothra plushie.
Oh, that's wild. Like I
Thanks
thought I had it going on with my little egg and my little
nice. I got my little setup back here too. My little minis. I thought a lot of self-sacrifice in that intro there. A lot of Mothra sacrifice. Okay, you have to tell me, where did you get that song? That song was amazing.
I actually just searched for it. Like, as I was putting all my intros for each spotlight together, I was trying to find the best thing that kind of fit the themes, and that one was actually designed for Mothra. I'll have to see if I can find. I'll send you the link to it. But
thank you.
They specifically did it for Mothra. You could hear her crying in the background, the lyrics, of course, and it was pretty good.
That made my day.
Yeah. So Mothra itself, she was first appeared in 1961 and apparently a novel, which I didn't even know, but it's called The Luminous Fairies and Mothra. And then, of course, the same year, Toho makes the Mothra film. But people want to know why I chose you to do this with me. And so Neko, despite being very angry at me for not having her, because she was a big Mothra fan too. Hey, I told her I'd give her Gamera, so she's like, okay. But she loves you anyway, so she's like, yeah, I get it, but it's me, I was like, no.
How could you? The betrayal.
But it was these are one of the biggest moments of why.
Oh no.
Just
it's gonna be fine.
Just get her right in her soul. Okay? Just make her soul right, and I'll accept her design. Okay?
So yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I was gonna play the actual reaction to the trailer because
thank God you didn't.
Well, that's the thing is like that was what got us into you and Samurai to begin with, was your excitement and how you reacted to seeing the creatures. Like that was like the biggest thing. And I sat there and I go, dude, she really loves Mothra like you. She's acting like you do. So,
sorry, Nico.
But yeah, I mean, obviously you all came out of that film a little bit different than initially, but
sometimes, and I learned a really good lesson from King of the Monsters. First of all, paper expectations. My expectations that I had going in, I still feel that some of my criticisms for King of the Monsters are legitimate from my point of view. But I do appreciate that, especially on American side of things, it did bring in a lot of people that normally probably wouldn't have gone to see a Godzilla film.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that it did bring that audience in, even though I had my issues. And again, I will always defend my issues. I haven't felt any differently ever since I've watched the film a couple of times since the theatrical experience. And it's not that it's a bad film. I just felt like it was a shame to be a kaiju film at times.
Well, Neko's like, I will never watch more than one trailer ever again.
Exactly.
They ruined it with all those trailers.
I think we did 4 trailer reactions to that. And obviously the first one was, I think, the one that really got me. But I don't do trailer reactions like that anymore. And I certainly do not watch more than one. If the first one is a teaser and it piques my interest, I'll decide if I want to watch a full trailer. But after that, I'm done. Like if anything shows up on YouTube, anything shows up on any social media that I'm on, I click off because I'm like, no, I'm not having that experience again because that was my fault. My expectations were just way too high. So it happens.
Got you so pumped.
I did. It did. Yeah.
Well, what was your first overall experience to Mothra? Like, do you remember the first time you ever saw the film or saw her?
I want to say, because we were just talking about how we watched Samurai and I watched the Godzilla film so incredibly out of order. I want to say that it probably would have been, it's possible, Final Wars. That was probably the first time I had a glimpse of Mothra, but obviously, most people that weren't, most kaiju that were not Godzilla in that film didn't last terribly long. So I think the first
went right through them.
Yeah, I think probably the first true Mothra experience I had was probably the first Mothra versus Godzilla in the Showa era. And it wasn't a while. It was a while before I saw the actual Mothra film, the actual standalone, the first time we were introduced to Mothra. So, and I can tell you, the first time I saw Mothra, I was immediately in love with her.
So is she like your favorite kaiju?
Well, she is probably kind of like how, Godzilla is just like, like rewatching Mothra Godzilla again, Mothra versus Godzilla, just yesterday. That boy is so clumsy in that film, and I can't get enough of him just tripping over shit. And he got his tail stuck in a building, and he got mad that he got his tail stuck in a building. Moments like that, you just can't put a price tag on that, So he's like there, but there's just something about Mothra that's just so pure, and that's just so, just so good. And come on, she's freaking adorable. I mean, the fuzzy little feet, the fuzzy little head. It's like, come on.
See, that's so funny because look, my initial reaction to Mothra was like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but like she's so boring. I get to sit there and go all the time, like, even Rodan looks like menacing. She just looks like I want to hug her to death. Like, I don't nothing menacing there. But
we might touch on it. She has her moments though.
That's what we'll kind of get into, because I think as time has gone on, I said, well, what does she do? What can she do? Like early on, she had her strong wings and her silk as a larvae, but as time has gone on in different movies, you get to see her evolve into more and more different things. And did you ever see the Rebirth of Mothra movies?
I've seen them once, and that was we're probably bordering on more than 15 years ago when I saw them. So it's been a really long time. I'm very unfamiliar with them, but I did see them.
Yeah, I just remember for myself, because those are definitely designed more towards the kids, like just involved kids.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It reminded me a lot of the early Gamera films. I'm like, oh man, I like them, but like at the same time, like we need something more mature here.
Yeah.
But I did have a question for you, in case you do remember or not. There was the Dark Fairy involved in those films. Do you remember the one with the all black, and she was riding that kind of like little?
It sounds familiar, but
But I just wondered, because you remind me a little bit of Batra, like just the kind of design of the creature she was riding. So I didn't know if that was like an influence on that, or if you knew anything about that at all.
No, unfortunately, kind of for what the reason you just stated. I always felt like it was more for kids. And this is going to sound really stupid, but of course, Mothra has to sacrifice herself in the movie. But what I was kind of like, okay, Mothra has always been traditionally female. That's kind of like the point. She's kind of like the Mother Earth sort of like guardian. She's always been referred to as a female. Whether the larvae are, you never know, because there've been twin larvae a couple of times, but one of them always died. Like between Mothra versus Godzilla, and then Ghidorah the three-headed monster, which Mothra versus Godzilla ended with 2 larvae, and by the next movie, one of them had just died off screen. But it eventually, Mothra usually becomes a female, and that trilogy, Mothra had a son. And I'm like, okay, and then they changed the design, and I'm like, okay. Maybe if I saw it again, again, sometimes you watch something and you're just not in the right frame of mind, or you don't have the history, like the historical context behind it. Like we were talking about the Godzilla franchise, that there were some movies that I didn't like because of specific reasons. And then I go back and I rewatch them, like, well, Godzilla, this is just what they do. They reinvent themselves. So, maybe if I went back and watched it, I don't know. Who knows? But I thought that was interesting that she only had that other trilogy aside from her original standalone film, and kind of just stuck to the Godzilla universe, which I kind of prefer, especially the way Mothra's become now, where it's like in the legendary universe, she's kind of like this calm down, Godzilla, you'll get to your fight, but you gotta calm down, you gotta be rational, and then when she needs to
slap a guy a little bit, get in line, man. Come on.
And then when she needs to, she gives her power away. I kind of like that. She's kind of like the Optimus Prime of Kaiju. She's always always sacrificing herself for the greater good.
And she's always had this connection to what is called the shobijin, or twin fairies. So how do you feel about that whole
especially in the Showa era, obviously the original twins were this not gimmicky, but they were a singing duo of actual twin sisters. They were performers. And a lot of the Japanese cinema that I've seen, they have that pop culture element to it, where if you have a thing, you're going to want to work it into this thing. But I kind of forgive them for being kind of gimmicky. I think younger me would have been like, oh, I hate this. But being older and understanding that that's just kind of the way things were back in the day, and that it's a gimmick, but it's a cute gimmick, and it kind of fits in with Mothra for some reason. I couldn't tell you why. I can't explain why.
I did think it's interesting because yesterday I'd done my Godzilla one with Daniel Miller, and one of the things that he brought up was the power of what do you want to say, when in the Mothra movie, like they were trying to sell the egg, or like the fairies were being used as like entertainment purposes for the these rich guys and stuff. So
the evil corporation kidnaps the fairies for singing act, and one of the funniest images is them, the spotlight going to the back of the theater and them coming down in this ridiculously little tiny carriage. Oh, it's so freaking hilarious. Yeah, funny stuff.
Yep. So why do you think for Mothra, like, because like much like Godzilla, she's had this staying power as far as like one of your more iconic kaiju. Why do you think she's had that over the years?
It's probably the same reason that Ghidorah has his staying power, and the recognizable ones that have that certain something. She's different. Like you were kind of talking about, on the surface she looks just like a really cute, plushy moth that you want to give a hug to. But I know I personally I feel like there's just something. Yes, she's adorable, undeniably so. But again, I do like how she's going to be. She started off as this entity that, you watch the first Mothra film, and she's kind of this protector and this guardian, but if you cross her, she's going to fuck you up. I love that about her. In the first film, her first film on her own, well, obviously it was her first film, when they kidnap the twins, she basically tears the city apart to get them back. And so they're like, okay, sorry, and she has those moments where, she's peaceful and she kind of is the nurturing one, but she will stand on business and she will do what she needs to do, even if it means killing herself, and I love that whole.
She's not afraid of anything. You see her even when she's dying half the time. I think of like even with King of the Monsters, she's basically getting torched by Rodan because of his fire, and like she still manages to come on top of him.
Mhm.
So she's not afraid to stick in it with the rest of the guys.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting that she has that constant theme of rebirth,
Yep.
in the second in the her second outing with her first outing with Godzilla, but her second outing as a film in whole. They introduced the concept of her being at the end of her life cycle, but in a way, because of the egg and the hatching of, in this case, it was the two larvae. She is reborn through them. So yes, she dies, but there's always that rebirth that keeps happening, and that theme is pretty consistent throughout. And I think that's I don't know, kind of
It's all
nice.
part of her lore. Yeah.
It's just a nice thing to, I don't know, just enjoy it.
She's kind of evolved in different looks over the years, and I'm just curious if you have any particular version of her that you like the most over others.
I do tend to gravitate, even though the Showa and the Heisei are pretty. I mean, she's pretty similar. Like with the exception of the Rebirth trilogy.
Yeah.
I do prefer like the more classic version,
Mhm.
with the fuzzy feet, and the fuzzy head and the giant eyes. I mean, I think that's probably my favorite go-to. Um, I don't mind her design in the Legendary franchise, but I do prefer the classic for sure.
Yeah, I thought the legendary was kind of cool. Definitely gives you a little bit more of a bug look.
Yeah, yeah. Which they were kind of going more for, I don't want to say realism, but kind of their own interpretations. It's Ghidorah,
Yeah.
but it's not derpy Ghidorah. I love Ghidorah, don't get me wrong, but Showa era Ghidorah is pretty derpy looking. His little floppy heads, and you
Yeah.
know, it's everyone was
Yeah.
kind of
What
derpy looking back in
in
the day.
fact, I think it was three-headed monster. He doesn't have like the lion's mane, or was that Destroy All Monster where he has like that lion's mane thing going on?
Well, he always kind of had, but I think it did get more pronounced the more it went on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Goofy. Love it though. Goofy. Love to see
Yeah,
it.
speaking of the rebirth movies, though, like she had moments where she looked like she was just able to swim. And then of course the armor was always one that popped up too. So
Yeah, yeah.
very interesting to say the least. When it came to her powers, like I said early on, she started out pretty basic, just doing certain minimal things to fight, but obviously she has telepathy, communicate with the twins. Uh, Even in the new movie, she communicates with the young girl. Um, the spitting the silk, strong wind force, reflective scales, the stinger, which I didn't notice. She did have a stinger, and was it GMK where she was shooting them? Because I didn't notice it at first, but I saw like a clip, and I'm like, oh yeah, she did have that. I didn't.
Oh.
I thought Legendary was the first one to bring that in, but they weren't. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
But then
Dude.
she's had like eye beams and the fairy dust.
Right, right, right.
So going forward, if they were to bring her back, is there any kind of weaponry you would add to her arsenal, or do you think it's pretty good where it is?
No, I think you don't need to reinvent the wheel a lot of times. And sometimes when you add too much, it tends to be like, okay, 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 gimmicky, gimmicky. Yeah, I would just, I like that the Legendary series, yeah, they've kind of done their own thing, but they've also at the same time, most of the time, managed to homage pretty well and keep the spirit of certain things pretty well. And I appreciate just kind of keeping things the way they've been doing it so far. Personally,
Yeah,
this is me.
yeah, I agree. Like sometimes you can kind of overdo it with
Mm,
overkill or whatever.
mhm.
But um, you brought it up earlier, so did I, about how many times she dies throughout her history and is reborn, and that's sort of just part of her lore now. But Do you ever get like me, and I'm just kind of like, even in King of the Monsters, when she ends up having to pass away and reinvigorate Godzilla, I'm like, why? Why can't you just leave her alive for one fucking movie?
No,
One movie.
that's the thing. I actually get surprised when she doesn't die in a film.
Mhm.
Like I think Ibra, the
The
monster of the
lobster.
deep. Yeah,
Yeah.
she actually survived that. She actually saved the people on the island, and she actually survived that one. She
Last movie
sur-
she survived too.
yes, she survived. She survived that one. So it's gotten to the point where it's like it again. You kind of expect it, and it's kind of like, oh, that's just what she does. She'll be back, but that's just what she does. I again, it's like I kind of expect it, and when it doesn't happen, I'm like, oh, hey, Mothra survived.
I often tell people that had never seen any Godzilla films and they watched it, they're like, "Oh, I liked her. She was great. Why did they kill her?" I said, "Don't worry, she'll be back."
Yeah, how does she come back? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's like
It's gonna happen. Don't worry about it.
I even enjoyed. See that's the thing about the Legendary series is that there are some things that they embraced wholly and fully. Like, yeah, she died in King of the Monsters. Didn't even stress about how she was back in GXK. It's like I appreciate that. Like they didn't even stress, like didn't overcomplicate it. They didn't have to do anything ridiculous like bringing Superman back from the dead in the Justice League film. We didn't overcomplicate it. It's like, no, she's back. Oh, well,
yeah.
us fans know why.
The post credits for King of the Monsters, we're like looking at the newspaper clip, says big egg found in some land. Like, that's Mothra. Okay, we're good.
Yeah,
she's coming back.
Most of us get it. Yeah.
One thing I talked about a lot is I wish Legendary would do origin stories. So I wish they would do one for Ghidorah, Rodan, and Mothra. Do you feel the same way? Would you like to see that?
I think Mothra is pretty good on the way they've been going about with Mothra. Ghidorah, I was proud of King of the Monsters for even suggesting that it's alien. I thought for sure they would have punked out on that particular touch point. A Rodan film, I mean, it would be interesting seeing an origin, seeing what they would do with that. Again, my only concern with the way Legendary handles their series is
just if they do it right.
Yeah, as much as dumb as GXK was, I felt like that was the sweet spot in terms of you have humans in there, cool, but we're focusing on the monsters. And you could kind of see in GVK how that movie seemed a little messy, and you see it kind of felt to me like there was a lot cut out that they wanted to salvage. It's like, hey, let's get back to the kaiju section of the meat of it. But you could tell that okay, there was a little bit going on here that was probably cut out and rushed for time or whatever. But I thought GXK really got that sweet spot where they kind of proved that you can have a quarter of your film with just Kong running around the Hollow Earth, figuring shit out and fighting. And I appreciated the hell out of that because it always seems like, especially American films, they're just afraid to go there and just kind of rest with the silence and the visual storytelling. Same reason you can't get a decent Transformer film is because you have to have a 2-hour, 45-minute human fest and 5 minutes of robot fights.
Yeah.
It's like they're ashamed. They don't think it can be done, which I'm like, dude, movies and television are visual and audio, and visual is half the fun of it. You can tell a story visually. It can be done. So again, it would depend on how they did it. Ghidorah, knock yourselves out. We've never really officially seen, what the hell is Ghidorah? Oh, he's an alien. Oh, okay. We've never really.
And I know we kind of overthink it as kaiju fans because we're like, yeah, if we do this, like, Nick and I talking about Rodan's like, man, let's bring him back to, like, since he's a fire demon, let's bring him back to the Aztecs, let them worship him or something and be kind of cool. But we tend to think deeper than Legendary probably does, and they're like, we're gonna make it as corny as fuck.
And I think to Legendary's credit, I feel like they've kind of gotten there. it took them a minute because 2014 Godzilla, I felt had the heart of a Godzilla film, but they were still too afraid to embrace it fully until the end of the movie. Like you had moments here and there, but it was like by the end, okay, it's Godzilla. Okay, okay, fine. And then progressing it just kind of took a while to get there before they were like, okay, we're a kaiju franchise, we're a big dumb fun franchise. And I think that's Legendary's greatest strength, is not taking themselves too seriously, because
Yeah.
I think Toho should stick to the seriousness. I think if -1 proved anything, it's
Oh God,
that
yeah.
Japan excels at that, because they know how to take the meat and the bones of the thing and the guts of it, rework it, and still make it work, even though it could change the history, which, you can do whatever you want in the franchise at this point. But I
That's
think
probably one of the
Toho,
best stories I've ever seen is -1. That is
yeah,
incredible.
Toho, take over the serious thing. Legendary, stay goofy, stay stupid.
Yeah.
You can have both. I love both. So
Speaking of that, would you like, or do you see Toho ever doing another Mothra film, or even by herself or with Godzilla?
A solo Mothra film, I'd be very surprised if they did. I think with six, well, I mean, -1 wasn't like a breakaway hit. Obviously, Shin Godzilla was the one for Japan, that really broke, brought in the money.
Yeah.
-1 obviously wasn't as successful, but I think Americans were a lot more aware of -1 than Shin Godzilla. I think Shin Godzilla is a very niche film,
Yeah.
whereas especially because of how it was a hot take on, not hot take, but it was a commentary on the bureaucracy and the inefficient government and ineffectualness of everything that they were going through over there. Whereas I feel like the themes in -1 were a little more relatable, and it
Hmm.
was done in a more straightforward way. Um, and I think they probably want to focus on that. I know the director is, as far as I know, he's developing a sequel to
Yeah.
-1,
Yeah.
and which I'm all for that.
Me
I
too.
would be surprised at this point, though, if they wanted to do a solo Mothra project. I could see she being involved in the near future, but
Yeah.
solo, I don't know. We might be
Yeah. I
past
think
that,
if
but
the director of -1 succeeds with the second film, like he did with the first, I think he'd probably be in control of whatever happens with any kaiju going forward at that point.
who knows? Who knows with Toho? You never know what studios are plotting and scheming. And also the money that comes back also dictates what comes out in the future. So, you know, um, I just hope for more quality, whether it's serious -1 quality or big dumb fun. That's the best case scenario that we can hope for anymore, just because we're lucky to get what we get half the time, with
You're not lying. I mean, we went, what was it? Final Awards was supposed to be the last one, and then 2014 came out, and that kind of reinvigorated the whole thing. And so, but
Mhm,
for all the complaint I hear from different kaiju fans, that the biggest thing is that we're lucky to get it all. That we got it. We got
mhm.
all this stuff now. No matter
Yeah,
if you like Shin Godzilla, no matter if you like -1, it doesn't matter. It's all there.
yeah, and that's the thing, you go back to 1954, and you just
Yep.
work your way forward, and you can kinda pick and choose what you like. If you wanna avoid the Showa era altogether after 54, okay, cool. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's a shame. But you do
Mhm.
have the ability to choose which ones you prefer, which ones you like, and, we're fortunate that we have such variety, I think.
Yeah. Definitely. So, finally, what do you think will be Mothra's legacy in the kaiju universe long term?
Oh. Oh, well, I mean, it's gonna remain the same. She's a guardian. She's a protector, but just don't fuck with her. Don't piss her off, don't get in her way, and she will do whatever she needs to do to get the job done, even if it means killing herself. And even if she kills herself, 9 times out of 10, she's gonna lend her power to somebody else,
Yeah,
and which I enjoy moments like that. Um but I do enjoy that. Yes, she looks like this docile little, nurturer, but don't cross her. I think that's a pretty good way to think about a character.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's like the epitome of Mother Nature, basically, in creature form, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she has the whole reputation of divinity and everything else. So
yeah,
definitely. Well, thank you very much for sitting down with me. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate your time.
Anytime. Hopefully
now I know you don't do stuff like Preston on the camera a lot, but how are the kitty cats?
Oh Lord, everyone's a pain. Everyone's fine. They're menaces.
They all following you into that room there?
You know, all my cats have these different personalities, and some of them are aloof as hell, and then some of them are clingy as hell. I have never had such clingy cats. But I love them, and you know, they have their moments where they drive me up the freaking wall, but they're all, you know,
Yeah, I saw Samurai had said that one of a princess, I think, has started to hang out with them. He's like, she's never done this.
Oh, Annie, the black one.
Yeah.
She's a very timid cat normally, but she has her moments where she's just so affectionate, and she's just such a sweetheart. But he has to bribe her. He's been bribing her for the past year. I said
he didn't mention that. He didn't mention that.
No, I told him, you want to, you know, she took to me because I worked with her. I tried to get her to come out of her shell a lot. But you know, he's so much bigger than I am. He's a big presence. I mean, I'm a decent sized person to a tiny cat, but he's, you know, big, and he's got a big, loud, booming voice, and he has that manner about him. And if you don't know him, you're like, holy shit, dude. And she gets scared by noises, by sudden movements. That's just how, you know, she was found on the street when she was a baby. She was found in a parking lot, who knows for how long. And so she still has that way about her. But I told him, you want to get to her, you start feeding her chicken. You start bribing her with food, and it's been working. You know, she's inching her way up. But yeah, you guys have I know you have your tarantulas, but do you guys have rabbits too, and cats?
2 rabbits, Peabody, and the other one.
The other one.
Then, I got 2 kitties. I got Hazel and Neko. They're running around somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's, you know.
They're like kids. That's just how it is.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
But we love them to death.
Yeah, and they know how to get into your heart, man.
Well, thank you again. Anybody, please like and subscribe to the Fat Samurai Guy. Great channel. Most definitely. It's how I became a fan of theirs, through their little video there, which you only got a clip of. You got to go see the actual trailer. You really appreciate it.
No, you don't. You do not.
And if you really want to get good content, you've got to get Lady Phatblood when she's ranting.
Oh God. You know, it's
legendary. They make legendary look like wusses.
Oh my God. It's been a while since I've had a good rant. Like, we had a mild rant on our last Coffee Beanie episode because of the movies we were talking about, but a good, like cathartic rant. It's been a while, I think. Good Lord.
Well, like and subscribe to the Meltdown Radio podcast, please. We appreciate the support as always. And again, Lady Phatblood, please hang around for a minute, but appreciate you coming on. For the rest of you, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you later.